King for Education account numbers.
Members, could we get you to go ahead and sign in, please?
Hey, that's all right. I just miscounted myself.
Are there 8? Are there 9? Somebody get up and leave?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the House Government Operations Committee meeting for March the 30th, 2026. We are called to order. Clerk, please open the board and take the roll. All right. Mr. Clerk, take the roll, please.
Mr. Chairman, you have 10 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you for that. Members, before we begin, are there any personal orders or announcements? Seeing none. All right. Little housekeeping here. Item number 5, House Bill 1913 has been rolled 1 week at the request of the sponsor. Also, House Bill 1537 has been taken off notice. First up, item number 1, House Bill 2540 by Chairman McCallum. Sir, you have a motion and a second. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do have an amendment.
And would you call off that number for us, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That is drafting code 016802.
That's what I've got. We've got a motion on the amendment and a second. Members, let's go ahead and vote to add that amendment to the bill. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. You are properly amended, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members. First time presenting in this committee, so how exciting. What we have right here, members, is a update to the 2012 TEAM Act for streamlining the hiring, appeals, and workforce practices of state employees. The goal is to bring efficiency, accountability, and common sense employment practices while preserving employee protections. Bill does a number of things, but I do want to make y'all aware that we do have a member of the governor's staff here to testify in depth should you have any questions you may have, but I will stand ready for questions unless you want to go to session here and testify.
Thank you for your explanation. We'll figure that out as we go along. I do have a question, though, from Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing the bill. We talked a little bit before. Lots of things I think are good in it. And having been someone who's managed large workforces in the past and been a union steward, some of this brings a little concern for me. I won't be able to support the bill, but I appreciate much of what you've done in it. Some of the taking out the ability to appeal things and changing that flow is probably not going to sit well with the average state employee.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Fritz. Thank you. We did get a chance to talk a little bit before committee. We did work well with the TSEA on a lot of this to get to a neutral position. The removal of the third appeal really came down to the fact that there weren't that many to begin with, and the amount of time that it was taking to get to that appeal was really leaving each department and agency in limbo until that decision was made on what was going to happen with that particular employee. So that's the reason we've removed it. It doesn't remove the ability of the employee, if they feel wrong, to take legal action against the state, but they were so far and few between in the amount of time when they did happen. We just figured it was inefficient. So, but I do appreciate your comments and concerns.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, do we have any other questions? Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And like the previous representative, I spent a lot of my career managing these steps. I was step 2 process when we were dealing with employees. And as you say, most of the things would stop at step 1 or step 2 in that grievance process. But step 3 is extremely important for no other reason, just to have an outside entity taking a look at this. So you talked about, I guess, for the reasons for why to bring the bill before us is they weren't that many and they were taking time. Could you let us know how many of that third step process has been in the last, let's say, 5 years, and have any of those resulted in the employee keeping their position?
You recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to my friend from Eastern Tennessee, I do not have those numbers specifically. Again, we do have a member of the governor's staff here that may have that level of specificity should you want to hear.
Representative McKenzie?
Yeah, I would, because as you said, if you say if it's not that big of a deal, not that many of a number, that's an important for us to be able to gauge to see what that looks like. So yes, if you don't mind, Chair.
All right, we'll tap out of session here for just a minute. And Mr. Eric Mayo, if you would, please make your way to the front. And when he's settled, Mr. Mayo, if you would introduce yourself for the record, who you're with.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Eric Mayo. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for the Tennessee Department of Human Resources.
And if you're ready to answer the question, you can go ahead or we can have it repeated.
Yes, sir. Well, I was trying to pull that data up as I walked up. But what I can tell you is roughly we average about 20 appeals that make it to step 3. What's significant is you have more than that are filed somewhere probably shouldn't speculate. You have more than that are filed for step 3. What we see is a lot of employees file those and then fail to show up at the step 3, or they settle before step 3. So you usually see around 20 or so a year that are actually decided at step 3. I think if memory serves well, last year we had 6 decisions that were changed at step 3. I think only 2 of those resulted in someone who had been previously terminated having that reversed.
President McKenzie?
Thank you. I mean, that's an important number, because these are people's lives and careers, and having a job with the state of Tennessee. My father retired from the state of Tennessee 37 years ago. He's passed away. I mean, that was his career. That raised 3 boys and all got college degrees. So even if we had 6 out of 20, that's significant in that steps 1 and 2 did not yield the same results, so it wouldn't have escalated to step 3. So this, to me, seems troubling. I mean, it's one, in my mind, it's one of those things. If we can save one person's job who was, for whatever reason, wrongfully, technicality, whatever, we could save their job. Isn't that something that we would want to do? And with the step 3 going away, they're only left to sue the state of Tennessee. Does that seem like the way to go about this? I mean, I know I'm asking your opinion, but let me ask it this way. 6 out of 20 or 2 out of 20 is, to me, enough to warrant the process. Am I wrong about that?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Representative, and I appreciate that question. I think there is the logistics of the situation. Obviously, that's the question of efficiency. I think there's also the question of these cases are reviewed thoroughly at step 1 and 2 currently. The step 3 process includes a neutral board of citizens who aren't necessarily familiar with the function within these state departments, or necessarily or the same level that the departments and agencies are, or the HR department is with the decision. So while sure, we don't want anyone to be wrongfully terminated, I think that, or disciplined in any way, I feel confident in our step 1 and 2 process that those can be resolved correctly.
Got to get this final follow-up. Thank you. I know you feel comfortable, but for those 6 employees that aren't going to get that opportunity, they're not comfortable. And that independent board, they're not just regular citizens. They're people that are familiar with the process. They're picked by people of importance. So they're just not 6 people off they're not, the independent board's not people off the street. They may not know about the inner workings of HR department and what your policies and procedures are, but they understand employment and how employment goes. So I wouldn't necessarily cast them down because they don't work for HR. They're not HR specialists. My last question, I guess, in concern with this, you talk about efficiencies. I would have thought with this being efficient, saving money, saving time, there would be a net benefit to the state of Tennessee. I don't see that in the fiscal note. So are you all going to take away employees that serve that step 3 process? Are you going to shrink your department as a result of not having this like you said, exhaustive and time-consuming information gathering process. So is that something that we can expect a savings to the state of Tennessee? And why isn't that listed within the bill?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, this bill has a positive fiscal note of $150,000 that we're saving from this process. That's what's budgeted for the department to put on those appeals for step 3. Additionally, not recognized in the fiscal note is what agencies will potentially save in both time and just employment dollars. We have a lot of attorneys who are spending a lot of time working on step 3 appeals who they'll either be able to evaluate the need for a number of positions or have those attorneys be doing other work for the agency.
Thank you for that clarity. I got a question too. I was wanting to ask, how many state employees are we talking about? How many state employees do we have in the state of Tennessee?
Chairman, roughly off the top of my head, I think it's somewhere between 39 and 40,000 on that. Is that number?
All right, thank you. Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't belabor my points. Thank you for coming today, first and foremost. Again, I've been on the bargaining unit side of this, and I've been on the vice president or executive level side of this, and I've disagreed with it going in both directions, I promise. So I'm not trying to pick on you. But here's, I think, is the greater impact. And I agree with my colleague from Knox County that 1 or 2 people do matter, but it's the morale of the people that becomes the most polluted. Because if we allow a culture to develop so that the state employee doesn't feel like they have a due process that they've had in the past, what we will do is start to silence their voice of continuous improvement. I have learned in managing and leading very complex organizations, you better have the voice of the person who's the touch labor, or it's going to cost us in the long term. So that'd be my caution for you there.
Thank you for that. Chairman Clemens, you're recognized. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you care to respond to that?
If it's okay, Chairman, Representative, I appreciate that point, and I think that's very important. And one thing I want to make clear to the committee is our agency, actually, I had a pretty extensive meeting on Friday about our communication plan for state employees should this bill pass and move forward. And we think it's very important that we are clear with our employees and we're clear on that morale issue. One thing we worked well with TSEA on that we are pretty enthusiastic about is that the current law prohibits employees from having someone present with them in most situations through the process beginning at step 1. One thing they rightfully pointed out to us that we've adjusted in this bill would allow the employee to have a representative with them from the get-go, so they have a better understanding of what's happening in the process. They can ask better questions and they can be more prepared and hopefully have a better outcome. One reason that I shared with Representative McKenzie that I feel so confident in those first 2 steps is because the employee will be better equipped and have more opportunities to understand it and be better prepared. So while I recognize that a shift is concerning and change is always can always be a scary thing for employees and anyone in any organization, we think that we are working well to make that a positive shift that does prepare employees and hopefully alleviate some of those concerns for them moving forward.
Representative Fritz, do you have follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, just a quick one. Again, I've had workforces pushing 1,000 people. 40,000 is a lot, and some of the big task. And some of the folks I've talked to felt a little bit strong-armed on the change. I know that they reached a neutral, but just in private conversations, they felt a little strong-armed on this change. So I would just exercise great caution moving forward. We want to make sure that those 40,000 Tennessee employees keep speaking so that the supervisors, managers, and commissioners hear that speech and we get better.
Thank you for that. Chairman Clemens?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. You know, I was on the Tennessee Civil Service Commission back when the TMAC passed and shrunk the process down and limited the options for appeals at that time from the Civil Service Commission that had been in effect for over a half century, well over a half century, under the guise of efficiency and so forth. And here we are 13 years later, shrinking it again. So I guess my question is, where's it going to stop?
You recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I think in the last 13 years, we've learned a lot. I think the posture things are in today are much better than they were 13 years ago. I hope that we continue to look at efficiency to make sure government is running as well as possible. I can't speak to where things will stop. I think that's ultimately up to the General Assembly to make that decision. So, but I do hope that we continue to all work together to make Tennessee state government as efficient as we possibly can.
Chairman Clemens, follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just think, it's not only, you talk about these numbers, whether it's 2 people, whether it's 20 people, whether it's 100 people. I think the gentleman who just spoke prior to me raised a good point about morale. And I think every administration will tell you, Republican, Democrat, what have you, will talk about the difficulty in recruiting people to work for the state of Tennessee these days. These are very specialty-driven jobs, very public service oriented, and it is getting increasingly harder and harder to get highly qualified people to work for the state of Tennessee and perform public service in that manner and build a career out of it. I mean, this legislative body has, a hard time. It's putting things in place, incentives in place just to keep people working here in the legislature. And then these are good jobs. And so to the extent we're doing anything to make working for the state of Tennessee or performing this public service that's so vital to so many Tennesseans across the departments, across the commissions, across every agency, anything we're doing to make that less attractive is a disservice to the people of Tennessee who expect at least a modicum of professionalism, qualifications, knowledge, experience, and respect for the people who carry out these services for the state of Tennessee. I think we continue to disrespect public employees, it's going to continue to bite us. So I just caution us against that. I caution us how far we're going to continue to go with this deprivation of rights of the people who carry and drive the state of Tennessee. And so with that, I appreciate you being here. You're welcome to respond, but let's be very careful what we're doing here, people.
If you wish to respond, you may. Okay. Members, any further questions for our guest? Seeing none, we're back in session. Leader Lamberth, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I disagree with virtually everything that was said from my colleague from Davidson County, but there's nothing new in that. We deeply value our state employees here in the state of Tennessee, which is why we've worked with the TSEA more than any other bill I've probably seen come through the legislature on this bill. I don't like the implication that's been said here today that there's been anybody that's been strong-armed. We've sent members to their board meetings. We have bent over backwards to work with them. And it's disappointing to me that they're still going to members' offices against this bill. This state and the people therein have spent hundreds of millions of dollars of their hard-earned money to increase pay, to better benefits, to increase health care, to fully fund their 401ks and retirement for our state employees. We deeply value our state employees. It's a shame that we don't have an organization in the TSEA that values their relationship with us as much as we do with them. Otherwise, the neutral position that they have publicly stated that they are in, they would have privately been in your offices. I am disappointed in that. It has not been negotiated in good faith. That's all that's happening in this committee right now. So I'm going to say it publicly. We absolutely value our state employees. But when you get hundreds of millions of dollars in raises, it does come sometimes with the relaxing of the protectionist principles of those liberal democratic policies that were set in place years ago when we paid state employees almost nothing, had decent benefits, and yes, severe protections that were in place so that at least you could have greater protections in the private sector. Our goal is to make sure that we are paying state employees what the salary should be for that job, whether it was in private or public sector, so that that employee is getting the wage that they should get and the benefits far and above. That's where we're headed. So if the question is, where do we go next? Another raise for state employees this year if folks will vote for the budget. That's a good thing. These are some minimal reductions. The original bill, there were significant objections to. We pared it down, including sending folks to their board meeting, including dozens and dozens of hours of meetings with the organization that claims to stand for state employees. Last thing I'll say to my friend from Davidson County on positions being difficult to fill. That's ridiculous. The last position we put out within the Republican caucus for an employee where we had a vacancy, we had over 200 applicants for one spot. The one before that, we had over 400 applicants. So at least within the Republican caucus, we don't have any problem filling the jobs. I can't say that for the other caucus. We value our state employees and we always will. I'll be voting for a positive recommendation on this. I don't know where the room is, but it's a mild change with what has been a decade march to value our state employees more through what matters most, more pay in their pocket and a greater degree of respect for the job that they do to actually make sure that their families are taken care of, not now, but just forever through the retirement fund that is fully funded now. I can go on and on, but I'm disappointed this has not been negotiated in good faith.
I have no further speakers. Do we have a question? Oh, clerk, open board, please. All those in favor, you know what to do. Any opposed? Has every member voted? Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes, 6 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Thank you for that. Moves to finance with a negative recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
Next up, item number 2. Leader Lamberth, you're recognized on House Bill 2534. Oh, wait, can we get a, I'm sorry, Representative Darby, can we get a motion? We have a motion, you have a second. You're recognized. Mr. Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an administrative bill that aligns TDEC's environmental appeal statutes with the requirements set forth in the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act and makes 2 other changes to better streamline appeals. It does 4 things, Mr. Chairman. Amends the time for administrative judges to issue initial orders in department contested case hearings from 60 to 90 days in accordance with the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act. Amends the time to appeal an initial order from 30 to 15 days in accordance with the UAPA. Eliminates the boards to vote to review an initial order with no party appeals, and changes in the case of hazardous waste appeals. The judge shall hear the case in the department's environmental field office region where the facility or site is located instead of the county, because a lot of counties do not have the TDEC offices. And one other thing, Mr. Chairman, this legislation does not change the time period in which a respondent can appeal a TDEC order. That remains 30 days.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, do we have any questions for our sponsor? Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry. Chairman Crawford, you're recognized, sir.
I was going to move previous question, but we got the public comment. No, move previous question.
Question's been called. Mr. Clerk, open the board, please. Members, you know what to do. Place your votes. Has everybody voted? Anyone wish to change a vote? Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you for that. You're on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
Yes, sir. Next up, item number 3 by Chairman White. House Bill 2533. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. 2533, this went through Education Committee. This is truly a cleanup bill that the Department of Education brought to us. As we know, over time, bureaucracy and redundancy does build up. It's got around 65 sections of cleanup language in it that we went through. Where you see like a council's being eliminated, it's because that's duplicative. We have too many of the same things. We're just cleaning this up. One section, bring to your note, section 59, dealing with virtual schools. We did remove that, and we're dealing with that in education in a separate bill. But besides that, this is truly a cleanup redundancy thing for the Department of Education with that. Open to any questions. I think the department is here too if we have any questions that I cannot answer.
Thank you for that question, explanation. Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Move previous question.
Question's been called. No objections. Mr. Clerk, open the board, please. Has every member voted? Any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, take the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, you have 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you for that. Bill moves out to finance.
Thank you, Committee.
Thank you. We're going to hand the gavel off, jump out of order just a little bit, and hand the gavel off to Chairman Reedy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, go to item number 20, the last bill on our calendar. House Bill 1618 by Chairman Lafferty. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Lafferty, you're recognized on the bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill extends the Tennessee State University Board of Trustees to 2029. They had their sunset hearing on December the 16th of 25, where a Q&A was reviewed and this 3-year recommendation was given. We do have representatives from the board here if members wish to go out of session and hear from them. Otherwise, I ask your support of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Questions, comments from the committee? Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to hear from, I believe I see the board chair out there.
We will go out of session and bring the board members up. And if you would please introduce yourselves for the record and to the committee.
Sure thing. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dakasha Winton, and I serve as the chair of the Board of Trustees for Tennessee State University. It's good to see everybody this morning.
Representative Hardaway, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just anything that the chair would wish to share to give us an idea of how you're moving forward.
Sure. Thank you for that question. I will just say thank you to all of you for all of the help that you all have provided to the university. Over the past 2 years since the board has been reconstituted, we have made a lot of significant strides. We have input a new president of the university who's also back in the back with me today, but we have worked very hard, but we have not done it alone. We have worked tirelessly with various people within the Governor Lee's administration, as well as the Comptroller's Office, the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, the Tennessee Bureau of Tennessee Board of Regents. So lots of people that have been actively helping us, and certainly with members of the Tennessee General Assembly, as well as a lot of staff people that have been helping us as we move forward.
Thank you for that information. Anyone on the committee would like to ask a question or have a comment? Seeing none. Once again, thank you for being with us today. And I've been on the campus a couple times in the past with your agriculture folks, and you are doing great strides and great things for the state of Tennessee. Thank you. So this time we'll go back into session. Any questions, comments for Chairman Lafferty? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? Clerk, please open the board for the vote. Place your votes. Anyone like to change your vote? Seeing none, clerk, please let us know the vote count.
Mr. Chairman, you have 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Bill moves out to calendar and rules. Chairman Lafferty, the gavel is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Reedy. Next up, item number 4, House Bill 1898 by Deputy Speaker Zachary.
Motion.
You have a motion to second, sir. You're recognized when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I do have a couple of amendments, I believe. No, drive on with it. Perfect. Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. It's good to be before you with an issue that 92% of Tennesseans support in our efforts here, according to Anchor Research. The legislation before you establishes clear transparency and safety requirements for the largest and most powerful AI companies in Tennessee. We're putting guardrails in place focusing on 2 key areas: catastrophic public safety risk by frontier models. And those frontier models, there are 5 as defined in the bill: xAI, OpenAI, Meta, Google, and Anthropic. Catastrophic risks do include cyber attacks, loss of control, which I've labeled the Skynet provision, weapons assistance, and large-scale physical or economic harm. But most importantly, Chairman, we're focusing on child safety. Many states were late in the social media game. We're not going to make that mistake with AI. We are focusing on the risk posed by chatbots who minors interact with. 2 out of 3 teens are on AI on a consistent basis. 30% use it every day. So it's something we need to get in front of, Mr. Chairman. This legislation does 3 things. It requires AI companies to publish and implement and comply with their own plans for how they manage catastrophic risk. It also is how they manage the risk to children. The company must make their guidelines clear while continuing updating and providing substantial modification updates when needed. If there is a safety incident, a Frontier model must report to the AG, who has sole discretion of enforcement with this legislation. They must report those within 15 days. If the incident poses an imminent risk of death or physical injury, it must be reported within 24 hours. Finally, Mr. Chairman, this legislation makes clear if the federal government passes any legislation, these Frontier models and chatbots will be in compliance, adhering to federal law. The language you have in front of you was amended coming through the Commerce Committee. We addressed some customer service concerns. As you know, Spectrum, Comcast, they all use customer service chatbots. The motion picture industry came to us because they use chatbots. One example they gave is if a child interacts with a Minion or any sort of interactive at Regal Theater or whatever it may be, that is a chatbot. So we work to address that. 4 other states have passed this, Mr. Chairman, will be the 5th. With that, I'll be glad to answer your questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Move previous question.
Any objections to previous question? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, open the vote. Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you for that. House Bill 1898 is off to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have item number 6 by Chairman Hicks. Have a motion and a second. You are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this bill will set up the Volunteer Firefighter Vehicle Grant Program. And it also removes geographical distribution requirement, allows the use of a grant fund for vehicle, and then it sets the effective date upon becoming law. That I'll answer any questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, do we have any questions? We have a question that's been called. Ms. Clerk, open the board, please. Ms. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you for that. House Bill 2446 is off to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
Next up, I do not see item 7, Chairman Williams, in the room just yet, so we will move on to item number 8. We will roll item 7 to the Hill. House Bill 2366 by Chairman Hawk. You have a motion to second. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I think we do have an amendment to file in this committee.
Yes, sir.
Drafting code 016560.
You are correct, sir. We have a motion on the amendment. All those in favor of adding the amendment to the bill indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Amendment is on the bill. You're recognized for an explanation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. For the purposes of GovOps, this bill will require the Department of Tourist Development, in consultation with the Department of Economic Community Development, the Department of Environment and Conservation, and the Department of Safety, along with local governments affected, to promulgate rules designating tourist development zones statewide as economic protection zones for the purpose of protecting and stimulating economic activity within these tourist development zones. It will establish requirements applicable to such rules. Mr. Chairman and members.
Thank you for that explanation. Chairman McKenzie, you're recognized.
I got a raise.
No pay and cut. No pay going to that.
Darn. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does this bill, we tout tourism, and it really is a huge economic driver. Does this bill enable tourism, or is this going to end up being something that might be considered, at least by our local entities that are successful, as a deterrent to tourism?
You're recognized.
In my mind, I see this as a positive step for tourism, working with local governments to ensure that tourism has a ingress and egress that they need to and from their businesses.
Follow up.
Thank you. So this is more individual business driven and not necessarily the tourist area. Like, you think of Broadway, Beale Street, or Market Square. They're trying to do some things there in Knoxville. So this is more driven toward the individual establishments, making sure that they keep things moving there, as opposed to, I would say, the greater good, potentially the greater good of bringing people into the streets and have it a more general
access area and be able to get their commodities in and out.
You recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill in particular will deal with the 8 tourist development zones across the state of Tennessee. So it's not a macro tourism issue. This is the tourist development zones that have been designated. Chattanooga Convention Center, Knoxville Downtown, Knoxville Convention Center, Memphis Downtown, Memphis Graceland, Memphis Fairgrounds, Nashville Convention Center Authority, which is also the Music City Center, Pigeon Forge Event Center, and the Sevierville Convention Center. So this is working within the confines and constraints of local governments to ensure with those other state departments that tourists are moving freely to get to where they need to enjoy themselves in these locations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Clemens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my question is, if this has obviously rules at issue since it's before the Government Operations Committee, and the promulgation of those rules are going to have a direct impact on how this is enforced. And so we're dealing with 8 TDZs, I believe or 8 cities with TDZs, I believe you said. So with regard to the rules that are put in place, anytime you're dealing with ingress, egress, or those types of things, they've got to be enforced. So that directly impacts local police departments and the like. So our police departments going to be able to handle this? How are they going to deal with the rules that are promulgated by this body?
Chairman Hogg?
Thank you. Part of the legislation allows local law enforcement to partner with the Tennessee Highway Patrol should they need assistance. Should it become a costly endeavor, then Tennessee Highway Patrol would assist in this. And they have, in the fiscal note, they have assumed that they will participate and therein have said it will affect them, but it will not create a cost increase to the Highway Patrol.
Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so the local government or the local police department would have to request the Tennessee Highway Patrol to do this, or would the Highway Patrol do it on its own accord?
You recognize?
I think that'll be part of the rules that the Department of Safety and all the other different state and local organizations will be discussing, what that partnership will be, but I do see it as a partnership.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may have missed this, Representative, but I didn't hear anything about the East Bank in this. Are they not included, or did I miss it?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. The Nashville Convention Center Authority doing business as Music City Center is what I have listed in Davidson on this particular endeavor. There may be an effort to create a new tourist development zone that could come under this legislation, but it is not on the list of entities that I have at this moment, Chairman.
Thank you, sponsor. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Members, do we have any other questions? Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Chairman. And I guess to the sponsor, I'm still not convinced that we're not stepping on the rights of local government. So if you could just tell me what the genesis of this was and what I'm more concerned about Memphis Shelby, what will change?
Chairman Hogg?
Thank you. I don't necessarily have an answer for you for the genesis of this. I think this is definitely a collaborative effort amongst folks interested in tourism, both businesses, local governments, and state governments, to ensure that tourist development is able to remain vibrant across the state of Tennessee. I don't know the genesis of the legislation. It was brought to me by a colleague.
All right, thank you for that. I'm not comfortable, and so I'll be voting against your bill, but I appreciate the explanation.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, members. Any other questions? Seeing none, we're ready for the vote. Mr. Clerk, open the board, please. Has everybody voted? Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes and 4 nays.
Thank you for that. House Bill 2366 is off the calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman, members.
Thank you. Next up, House Bill 2220 by Representative Alexander. You have a motion and a second. You are recognized when you're ready,
Thank you,
Representative.
Chairman. Thank you, committee. Good morning on this first Monday of Holy Week. The bill that I have in front of you is a bill that would vacate and reconstitute the Tennessee Arts Commission. We'll still have 15 members, but those appointments are being changed as to how they're being picked. Then this newly constituted commission will also have one member from each of the 9 divisions picked by our governor, and one member of each of the 3 grand divisions picked by the Speaker of the Senate, and one member of the other 3 grand divisions picked by the 3 grand divisions picked by the Speaker of the House. And that's what this bill does.
Thank you for that explanation. Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Move previous question.
Questions called? All right, members, we're ready to vote. Ms. Clerk, open the board, please. Has every member voted? Any member wish to change the vote? Ms. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes and 3 nays.
Thank you for that. House Bill 2220 is off the calendar and rules.
Thank you.
Oh, next up, item number 10,
Yes.
House Bill 1956, also by Representative Alexander. You have a motion and a second. You are recognized.
Thank you. What this bill does is, if you remember last year, we had a bill that eliminated step therapy for anyone with metastatic stage 4 cancer. And what this bill does, it will take it to all stages of cancer.
Members, that is the explanation. Do we have any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, open the board, please. Everybody voted? Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you for that. House Bill 1956 is off the calendar and rules.
Thank you.
Next up, I have House Bill 2252 by Chairman Grills. I do not see the chairman right now. We'll roll that to the hill. Next up, we've got item number 12, House Bill 2408 by Representative Baum. Mr. Chairman, you have a motion and a second. You're recognized when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman Lafferty. This is a bill that deals with the annoyance economy. That is becoming a formal term that means firms profiting by making things inconvenient on consumers. For example, making it harder to claim rebates, making it more difficult to receive compensation for warranties when products break down. And a third example would be where companies are calling, constantly peddling their goods and services. This bill would limit the number of solicitation calls to Tennessee residential households by a particular company to no more than 10,000 per month. It would be enforced by the Attorney General under the Tennessee Consumer Protection Act. And my motivation for this is partly my father. I've got an 88-year-old father who receives phone calls literally all day long from companies wanting to sell him end-of-life burial insurance, home alarm systems, med alert devices. And my name happens to be exactly the same name as my father's. And so I get all of these calls all day long too. We have a federal do not call registry list, but evidently it's not completely successful. And so this is just another attempt, this time at the state level, to see if we can limit some of these phone calls.
Absolutely outstanding, sir. Members, do we have any questions for the sponsor? So, Representative Hardaway, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I certainly have that problem. What are the penalties again?
You're recognized.
The penalties are already established under the Tennessee Consumer Protection Act. And the penalty here that would be used from that act would be $1,000 per infraction.
Follow
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Representative Renault, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the bill. I definitely support it. I'm just curious, do you know why these calls do not fall under the federal do not call registry list?
You're recognized.
I suspect that they do fall under it, but it just takes someone at the federal level to enforce it, and they aren't enforcing it. I don't know whether that means they can't from a technological standpoint, or they don't have the manpower, or they don't have the desire. And so hopefully our Attorney General will make more of an attempt to at the state level.
Thank you.
And I don't know if anybody else has had this happen, but in the muddling, I'm sure that that's what they do. They mix it up. But I've actually had my own phone number come up on the caller ID from one of these spam calls. It's crazy. Anyway, all right, members, any other questions? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, open the board, please. And I believe everybody's voted. Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 10 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you for that. House Bill 2408 is off the calendar and rules. Thank you, sir. Next up, House Bill 1447. Will you have a motion and a second? Chairman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Lafferty. This bill would give our treasurer legislative authority, legislative approval to apply to the federal government to be a non-bank custodian of Trump accounts. This bill would not give the treasurer permission at this point to set up that program. And but he would have to come back to the Tennessee General Assembly for that authority. And let me remind you of what a Trump account is. This is where children born between 2025 and 2028 will be provided an IRA type tax deferred savings account. The government will put into it $1,000 per child. Dell Computers, Michael Dell may put in an additional $250, and this money will grow tax deferred until the child is 18 years of age. And then at that point, withdrawals can be made for things like college, medical expenses, or it can stay in the account and be saved for retirement.
Thank you for that explanation. Chairman, Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So can these funds, would this measure allow a parent to put their money in with I think it's 529 accounts for that we already have savings for our children. So if they want to commit to, monies that they're giving to that, and they want to take these additional dollars, would this measure allow that?
Chairman Vaughn?
These accounts, these Trump accounts, would be called 530A accounts, and that's just the part of IRS code that the provisions fall under. Parents could contribute up to $5,000 per year to one of these accounts. My understanding is the 529 accounts would be something separate.
Follow?
Thank you. I mean, I think it would be, if these dollars, I would just hate having two separate accounts. You got a newborn, and like you say, there's minimums that they can give in this one. But it'd just be nice if we could, have it streamlined. We talk about to there's this one pot of money that our parents are saving for the children. But thank you.
Thank you. Do you wish to reply?
This bill today doesn't set up the Trump accounts program. That would be designed at the federal level. This would just allow the treasurer to be a custodian of those accounts. And it might sound inconvenient for there to be multiple accounts, but I think since the federal government is proposing to deposit $1,000 in each one, it would be worth the inconvenience.
Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sponsor, first question, did the Treasurer ask you to bring this bill?
You're recognized.
Yes, I've been working with the Treasurer.
Okay, thank
Representative
you.
Parkinson.
And what protects our Treasurer should anything go wrong with, these accounts? Somehow they get siphoned off.
Chairman Paul?
It's hard to know the answer to that question at this time because the treasurer hasn't even proposed a state version of that plan. All the treasurer is wanting to do is to start the process by applying to be a potential custodian of those accounts. what would happen if money was siphoned from the programs, I think would ultimately depend on how the program is set up, and that hasn't been done yet.
Representative Parkinson, follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And should this happen at the federal level and our treasurer become, and the person that oversees it for the state of Tennessee, kind of like Obamacare, could the name be changed at the state level? Oh, that's a serious question.
You're recognized.
I guess people could call the plan whatever they want. Some people call Obamacare, and some people call it the ACA.
Right.
So these might be called Trump accounts, or they might be called 530A accounts. If you're looking for another name, you can call them a 530A account.
Okay, or Tennessee Children's Savings Account. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Representative Renault, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's hard to separate the idea of whether the government, federal government should be starting savings accounts for it, but I understand the sentiment that if they are, the Fed hasn't always done a great job of managing our money, so I understand the sentiment of wanting the state to do it. So I will support the idea that we want the state to control it should those things come to fruition. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, open the board, please. Has every member voted? Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 present not voting.
Thank you for that. And House Bill 1447 is off to calendar and rules.
Thank you all.
Thanks, sir. Next up, item 14 by Chair Lady Littleton. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized when you are ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is called the Safe for Kids Act. It requires the Commissioner of the Department of Human Services to establish a pilot program which will begin July 1st, 2026 and end June 30th, 2028 to strengthen payment integrity, fraud detection, and oversight of publicly funded child care payment assistance programs. Specifies that it is the intent to fund the pilot program by using available reserve funds from the Bureau of TennCare that are designated for actuarial stabilization, payment integrity, and payment oversight responses. This bill is in response to the child care fraud that was uncovered in Minnesota.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, do we have any questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Mr. Clerk, open the board, please. Anyone wish to change their vote, add their vote? All right, there we go. Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 10 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you, sir. You're off to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
Yes, ma'am. Next up, item 15, House Bill 1888 by Representative Stevens. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have an amendment on the bill. Does the amendment travel with it to this
I
committee?
believe it is. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Travel
very
with the
good.
bill.
So as amended, then the bill will allow the State Board of Education to waive the educator licensure requirement for an individual without a bachelor's degree from an accredited four-year institution if the director of schools or the director of a public charter school notifies the Board of Education that there's a vacancy in that type of position that they need to hire. And there is a process by which this person would have to go through an application. There's a whole process they'd have to go through with requirements to do this type of work.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, do we have any questions? Representative McKenzie, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the sponsor, we talked about this in the Education Committee. But I have to say, especially in this rulemaking process, how dangerous this is. We're talking about one of the first things that we did as a modern civilization. We created a system of educating our youth, and we set standards to that. And this is putting huge chinks in that armor. Our teachers are important. Our teachers are professionals. If you had an engineer doing work for a project or a construction project you had an architect, said, well, I went 3.5 years, but I didn't finish, but I'm pretty good at it. You might do it for a sidewalk in your house, But you wouldn't let that person build your house or build your company business. You wouldn't if they're not certified, if they don't have the chops. You wouldn't let a person, we wouldn't let a person enter into a court to say, well, I went through law school, but yeah, that bar stuff I didn't feel like doing that. I'm better. You wouldn't let that person argue for you. But we're now going to say, yeah, you taught in some private school that we don't know anything about, and you didn't get your degree. You didn't go through the process. You didn't finish the process for whatever reason. You could have finished, and you still can finish. We have all sorts of mechanisms to finish the process so that they can be a qualified and certified teacher for our children. And now we're taking, because we say there's a teacher shortage, we're going to dumb down the profession. That's what this is doing. This is devaluing and dumbing down the profession of educating our children. It's important for these teachers to be qualified in our public schools and our public charter schools. It's very important that they finish the process, that they understand what it takes. And a letter from a principal or pastor or a person over whatever the school is, it's not enough. And so this, again, I'm just warning us, this is a dangerous path that we're headed down. We want to be the best in education. When I first came on, I remember Chairman Sapicki saying, we want to be the best. What about this bill makes us stay on the path to be the best in education in the United States?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't disagree that we want to be the best, but we do have to have teachers if we want to teach the students. I got some clarification from some of the questions that were asked the other day. These apply to Category 1, 2, and 3 private schools. Category 1 private schools are already regulated by the state, and those teachers are licensed. So it would not have any effect on those. Category 2 and 3 are accredited by a state or a regional body, and those have rules for their own processes to hire teachers. So this isn't somebody that just came off the street and was teaching in a classroom in a barn for 10 years that says, I want to go teach at a public school. These are accredited agencies. They have to renew their accreditation every so many years to maintain that with the state. And so the key word here is accredited. This all started with some constituents in Rutherford County that had taught for 43 years. And at the time they went to college, their university was not accredited. And because of that, when they decided they wanted to teach at a local high school, they could not get a teaching waiver or a teaching license.
Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you know, but there were other things to do. Knoxville College wasn't accredited for a long time, and I don't know what their status is currently. But once they got that degree, they could go and get a master's in education. They could get the things that they needed to do. Those folks in Rutherford County had options. So again, I'll say, and I don't think you answered the question, so I don't think this is making us the best. There are options out there, but I don't think we need to dumb down the program. And that's what it is. It's devaluing. Now, maybe that's a better word. It's devaluing some of our most precious commodities within our state. Those teachers have those children for a lot of times more active awakening hours, more than their parents. They're in that classroom with that student. So oftentimes, especially if parents are working late, by the time they go to after school care, they're interacting with them more than their parents. And to say that having a degree is too high of a barrier, I just disagree with. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. And I'll just a little context. We've got some of our poorest performing schools across this state, mostly in our inner city, some in Appalachia, have all got accredited and trained teachers that have all the certifications and everything, but yet the results have been quite subpar. So I say that just to say this: certificates, degrees, things like that don't always translate into abilities and outcomes. Anyway, did you have any response? Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just, well, as clearly as you can, are these these teachers that are going to be hired through these private schools, do they have a degree at all, or do they not have a degree?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Category 1 teachers would have a degree and a license. Category 2 and 3 are regulated through the accrediting agencies, and they set their own rules for how they hire teachers. I went to a private school that was accredited through the 2 or 3, and all of my teachers had college degrees. Now, I can't speak to what the rules are today, but they set their own rules, and the schools that are part of their associations have to follow their standards.
You recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But based on the legislation that you're bringing, will they have to have degrees or not have to have degrees?
You recognize?
The way the amended version reads says that it waives that requirement for an individual who does not hold a bachelor's degree from an accredited 4-year institution.
And just a quick follow-up to that.
Please.
And so, but it waives it if they don't have a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution, but they can have a bachelor's degree from an unaccredited institution. Will they have to have that degree from the non-accredited institution?
You recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill is left open because those accrediting agencies, they may not require a college degree for some of their coursework. So I don't know what the requirements are for the Category 2 and 3 accrediting agencies, but it just allows the teacher to get a waiver if they're going to a public school from a private school.
Thank you for that. Representative Fritz, we are really short on time, if not completely out of.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be really quick. When I read through the bill, thank you for bringing it. I don't see anything that forces the LEA to hire that person. I think about perhaps a mid-career Navy nuclear person that leaves. And, we did some work on that with education a couple of years ago so that we could bring those people into the classrooms, even if it's a CTE type classroom. I certainly would oppose any reducing the standard requirement for education, but it seems to me that your bill offers a pathway to reach out to that right person who's been a professional educator, who may have found themselves in some circumstance that they in either a non-accredited degree or perhaps life experience. And again, my follow-up question, does your bill at all force the LEA to hire anyone, or does it give them the choice to make the hiring decision?
You recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It gives the school districts the choice on whether they want to do that. And I do trust my local district superintendents to make good decisions. They do make good choices. And this would give them one more option to fill a vacancy.
Thank you for that explanation. Seeing no further questions, Mr. Clerk, open the board, please. Has everyone voted? Anyone need to change a vote? Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes and 4 nays.
Thank you for that. Bill passes out to Finance, Ways and Means. With that, folks, we are out of time today. The remainder of the bills will be rolled to the next calendar. Oh.
We only have an hour.
I can't stop the clock.
What did you say?